We are Alan and Lori Reminick. Repetitions of similar events in history fascinate us. With mathematics, time cycle theory, and Vedic astrology, we discover why and when those events happened, and when we will see them again.
We talk about individual instances occurring in history, historical events. And it can, thousands of years can be the different, from one event to another. 5,000 years could be a difference. And I am just curious, wondering, how do we think of causality in this?
You could say there are people who have talked about first causes, like the birth of the whole universe, and how did it start and expand and get bigger and bigger and develop?
This is like the chart of the world, of Earth.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we look at the chart of Earth.
Yeah. And Earth existed probably before people lived on Earth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there's some kind of evolutionary process going on that goes on by itself. We don't need to do it. What we're hoping to do here is see a connection between the more abstract and seemingly distant planetary positions and one level of cause in terms of individual and collective life. There may be other levels of causality that are also there, but if you can see a connection between these cosmic influences in a simple way, that's what we will call cause. Now, how the causation works and how does astrology work and why would planetary positions influence people on Earth and their psychology and all that, there are different theories on that subject. I have my own opinions on it, but causality ultimately is involved. This is not an accident.
Actually, I was kind of thinking more causality. This is kind of out of the box, which, no surprise, that's what we do. I wonder if we can trace a causality from instance to instance to instance, or not that it's isolated incidents that are similar, but that it's related. It's there's a relationship. It's not isolated.
What we're just describing is that those sequences tend to repeat. One of the videos we had was between 1191 AD and when Richard the Lionheart tried to take over.
Yes.
And then 810 years later, the World Trade Center bombing.
So that was a connection.
Well, action-reaction. Now, people don't usually think about action-reaction 800 years apart because they don't remember 800 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's the way it works. So it can happen that 2 times 810 years, that the direction would be the opposite way. That whoever
not.
But what my point is, A hits B, and then 810 years later, B hits A back.
Yeah.
And then 810 years later, you get a 1620-year repetition of sameness, so that A hits B again. Mm-hmm. That's how it works. So, the sequence is oftentimes based upon planetary combinations that exist at that time that react to react to react to react to react to react. And it's so interesting. You can even see there's a thing called the Andrews median line principle in the stock market, where a market goes up a certain amount and then it goes down a certain amount, and then the next move up mirrors the first move up exactly. I mean, and then the next move down mirrors the next move down exactly, and you can even draw the midpoint lines and show where the targets are.
And then I also remember that we have actually shown a causality in the video on that culminated most recently with the space shots with 2 billionaires going up into space. And before that, it was the development by business people, not the government, of airplanes. And before that, it was the development by business people, not the government, of the steam engine. Right. That is showing a development, not necessarily, like you could say it's a causality, but it's definitely a development from steam engine to airplane to
Right.
rockets run by individuals. Anyway, my idea, my hope, and I figure we will talk about this again, is just besides recounting individual instances over time, which is fun, but to identify causality. We'll see.
Yeah, I think, the point that you're making is that there's some sort of evolution, that there's not only the cycle repeating, but it's repeating on the next level. So it starts out with the steam engine, and the steam engine had its utility back then. That was the best that we could do. We didn't know anything about flying yet. But it was able to get an engine moving forward, pulling a train and moving things around, and transportation increased, everything increased. And then when the planets came to the same kind of configuration, then you have an airplane all of a sudden, and it came out the same kind of way. And then again, a rocket ship, and who knows what it'll be the next time. But there's some sort of growth process. It's not just a circle thing, that the cycle goes around in a circle. It's almost like it's going up in a spiral, going up a mountain.
Yes.
And it gets higher on the mountain and higher on the...
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing is actually the mechanics of evolution over long periods of time by looking at planetary positions that connect those things. Otherwise, they would seem disconnected. They'd be there and you'd see the progress, but you wouldn't recognize the fact that the trigger that created the impulse that created that steam engine, and the cosmic configuration that created the airplane, and the cosmic configuration up in the sky and in the whole universe that created the rockets, that there was a time factor, that these happens on a rhythm. There's some cyclical
So
rhythm
we'll
there.
see something else, maybe getting out of the solar system.
I think it's pretty much that way.
A couple of 100 years? 100 years? Getting out of the solar system in 100 years? Ooh, that would be cool.
Yeah. So did that help to clarify some of the questions or no?
Well, we'll find out.
Okay.
I suspect I will ask more questions.
The reporter must report.
What I was trying to get at, and I don't know if it's possible, is if we, from the human point of view, and history, in the drama that is humanity, can identify causality.
Well, you're using the word causality here, but I think it also means you're looking at another process other than cause and effect. And that's, you can use the word evolving or evolution as another process that's happening in life. That the train goes around the mountain and it keeps going around, and but the train tracks go around in a spiral. But looking at it over time, you see what's called evolution, some evolution,
If we look at it using our process, then it all comes down to the progression of the stars and the planets, marking the progression of time. So I guess what it comes down to is the relationship of concepts, terms, causality, progression, seeming repetition. Like Afghanistan, it seems like people have tried to conquer Afghanistan many times and failed. That being a potential example of causality, but maybe not. Causality or progression. Anyway, I don't think we have an actual answer, but this was fun. Don't squint.